a couple of words about the Hollywood movie The Last of the Mohicans, or Mohicans, in from 1992. This film lacks many things from when one is looking from historical perspective. If, of course, it combines some elements of romantic drama with historical events, and that's a problem, because it would be better if they focused only on, if they were not keeping with reality, with historical reality. That would be better if they had made a film which is purely fiction. But they did, so I will criticize a little bit. First and foremost, the main history is not very bad positioned, but it's only highly improbable. That's all. So those Mohicans, there was a smallish tribe which was already smallish in the times when the English came in the 17th century to America, and they were already a small tribe, and they were basically collaborating with the English, and so they are still in 1757 when the film is positioned and placed. So they were still in collaboration with the English. So one of those Mohicans, or really a white person who was brought up by Mohicans, which is also not very likely, but not totally improbable, who is played by Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis is always very thorough with his rules, and he was occupying himself for several months in these tight woods of North America and he was constructing himself a cabin with his bare hands, because he wanted to be looking more probable on the screen when he was playing this man of woods, man of forests. So it basically, I think it worked, and he is probable. He was the romance between the Colonel Monroe's daughter. There really was a Colonel Monroe. He was the defender of the Fort Henry against the French. His real name was George Monroe, but in the film he's Edmund Monroe, curiously. And he has two daughters. In one of those daughters falls in love. One of those daughters has a romance with this person who is brought up by Indians, by Mohicans. Not totally improbable, but not very likely. But okay, so here's the main topic. The other problems with this film is the attempt to demonize the English, and the attempt to make Indians angels, as usually the lefty directors do. So which is the first thing succeeded, the other has failed, making Indians also very more demonic than they really were. So okay, so first the Battle of Fort Henry. It was fought between 6,000 French, and under the command of Marquis de Montcalm, the General Marquis de Montcalm, and he was supported by a little more than 2,000 Indians. And those Indians were from Huron tribe. Huron was a very powerful tribe, and they were basically collaborating with the French all the time. So there's like 8,000 people under the command of Marquis de Montcalm. And within the fort was slightly over 2,000 English, both professional soldiers and militia, which were commanded by George Monroe. George Monroe was really counting, was not intending to give the fort up, and he was really counting on the help that would come from the southern parts of today's New York State and back then New York Province. He was counting on the arrival of General Webb, but this arrival never came. So he had to give the fort up when the mortars, the powerful French mortars, were dragged close enough to make huge damage to the fort. So any further fight was pointless from that time. And that this is totally right. This is exactly how this fight was going on historically, in historical reality. So after this surrender of British troops, they were granted to the possibility to withdraw with weapons, and Montcalm has pledged that he will not attack them. In reality, the Indians, who were not satisfied with the terms of surrender, have attacked and killed something like 200 of those English, and despite the action of Marquis de Montcalm, who was trying to stop this slaughter. And he really stopped it, because it was, well, they didn't kill all of the English. They killed only those 200 or something like this, using surprise attack. In the film, Marquis de Montcalm is only complaining to Magua, one of the Indian captains, so to speak, that he will have to fight the same man again later, as if he is encouraging, as if he was encouraging the Indian Captain Magua to slaughter the withdrawing English by surprise. In the totally different behavior of the French commander in reality and in the film. We have the French general, who was very honorable man. He's depicted as some, well, not very honorable man. So the demonization of the French and the English is on in the film. We have in the film, the Indians massacred all the British, not just these 200 that historians agree that what has happened. Only 200, so 1/10. Not all of them were slaughtered, really. In the film, all are being slaughtered. So it's so this is also the huge gap between historical reality and the film propaganda. We have the British are all pompous and very well. They are not behaving nice, and so they are also depicted as monsters. And we have constantly this going on about British and European and French greed and so on and so on, greed for land and riches, and so on. So the lefty gospel all the time. We have also some ridiculous statements about living in liberty among Indians, which is totally crap, because the Indians were highly organized and very authoritarian indeed. Also, so but we have the Huron tribe, which was, and we can see very huge attempts to make them look good, which is totally failed. But this is failed because they massacre all the British, not just a couple of them. So they are really, and there is this Magua guy who is really cruel and so on. So the Indians are not really portrayed good, in spite of very distinct tryings to make them look good. So usually the films are not depicting Indians right because of political correctness. So we have claims like scalping was introduced by the Europeans. It was only in reality it was only encouraged by Europeans, so they paid for scalps and so on. But it was a very old Indian rituals which had nothing to do with Europeans. First and foremost, it had some religious and warrior meaning, which was to humiliate the guy who lost the battle. The scalp not always resulted in death, so it was like the mark of constant humiliation for the person who lost the battle or something like this. It was both among Indians or against Europeans. So that was something. But the films is not really referring to scalps. It would be too politically incorrect, obviously, but they are referring to Indians, and they are giving the Indians a chance to be a Solomon king like wise, because the character of Huron chieftain is introduced, who is looking totally different from all the other Hurons, which is making this not very probable. And he is, of course, saying much about European greed and so on, blah blah blah. And he is also trying to calm the British by sending one of the daughters to the British, something like this. It's a totally improbable scene where he should placate the English. So when the Huron tribe was all the time collaborating with the French against the English, so it doesn't make any sense. So we have some totally improbable scenes, and we have much lefty propaganda. And we have a very distinctive attempt to make Indians look good, but all things considered, the film makes them look bad. Because manipulating with historical facts always makes all the character bad, and they are psychologically working in different and bizarre way. So that's that.